well into August, just passing the Afghanistani fig, which has a wonderful foliage and a slightly silvery sheen. In fact, I believe there is a version with much more silvery leaves, but still a very attractive foliage plant. A lot of colour about. I get the impression we're being examined. Anyway, coming down the yellows and oranges past the Hedychium, I suddenly realised I've gone past Canary Island foxglove, Isoplexus isabellina, in the form which is compact, called Bella. This is forming quite a good bush. Anyway, we'll carry on and see what there is to see. We'll just go down the lower path. Little exotic group of a cycad and alstroemeria and a grey Mahonia from Mexico, which has rather nice new growth. In fact, shows a bit like that it comes from the Berberis family. We also have here a good form of red-leafed Eucomis called Sparkling Burgundy. Yes. And behind it, a yucca-like thing called No Liner Nelsoni. Okay, Bertie, we can go out. Walking up here, I noticed that this rather unusual Mahonia is in flower. This is Mahonia nitens, and it's got these jolly flowers, and so the variety is called Cabaret. But it's nitens presumably because it's got rather shiny and glossy leaves, as well as the jolly flowers. Now here we're coming up to a leguminous shrub, which is rather jolly with its pink flowers, Indigofera, and I do chop it back in the spring, and it throws out these branches of dissected foliage with these rather jolly pink flowers. Next to it are two forms of the Mediterranean fan palm. This is the silver-leafed form, and the other side of the Indigofera is the rather compact form called volcano. This is several years old and hasn't got all that big. At one end of the tennis court we approach the rather grotesque flowers of Hibiscus, Walberton, Rose, Moon. They are vast. A hybrid between the tender hibiscus you see in the Mediterranean and the hardier hibiscus bushes which we grow. This one is moderately hardy. Next to the hibiscus we've got the rather beautiful purplish flowers of Eucomis comosa. Eucomis comosa does have a variable amount of purple in its leaves and flowers. Sparkling burgundy was a cultivar introduced by Tony Avant, a famous horticulturalist in North Carolina, who chose a bronzy leafed seedling and named it. And I think the flowers are beautiful stars, really. Coming up behind the tennis court, rather exotic plantings on the left, we come across a shrub from Australia, Grevillea victoriae, with its dripping yellow orange flowers, and it is really one of the hardier of the Grevilleas. And like the other Grevillea I showed you earlier in another video, the bees love this. Here we have a suckering shrub which we saw by a waterfall in China growing. This is Clerodendron bungianum. It has sweet smelling flowers, but the leaves when they're crushed have this rather acrid solanaceous smell, so best avoided. Just sniff at the flowers, that's the main thing. The hydrangeas, which are mostly going over. There are a few new flowers on Yogasaki, but there's quite a nice paniculator with lacy flowers called Big Ben. I saw this at Rosemore and thought, I'd like that one. Passing Big Ben, there's another rather unusual shrub here with its long sort of catkins of flowers. Produces a lot of these perhaps not altogether thrilling flowers, and they don't smell. There's an American Itea which does smell, Itea virginica, but this one doesn't. Nevertheless, it's fairly decorative, and also it was a free gift. Haha! Next to the Itea being particularly colourful, its new growth is always a beautiful colour. There's a Japanese maple. Coming up the steps, people I've shown around have tended to stop and look at this conifer. This is Abies coreana, a Korean fir, which is normally grown for its beautiful blue cones, but in this particular specimen It's the variety called Zilberlock, because you can see the silver under the leaves, which have turned and curled around to reveal their silver underparts. I'm taking you just behind the amazing Miscanthus cosmopolitan and the lovely Penstemon. We're going behind hydrangea paniculator limelight, and we are confronted by these wonderful little fairy flowers, really, of Thalictrum de Levei, and in amongst it is the Veronicastrum, which is a white one. Going past the potato climber, Solanum jasminoides album, we see the Fuchsia climbing up the Garrya. This is the Fuchsia Lady Boothby. I saw it at Tresco going over a 20-foot high ilex oak hedge. Lady Boothby was the first president of the British Fuchsia Society, which was formed in about 1938-39, just before the Second World War. Nearby we have one of the first of the ginger lilies to flower. This one is a dwarfish form with lovely orange flowers discovered by Tony Schilling and called Hedychium Assam orange. I can't finish in this part of the garden without showing you this lovely large flowered hydrangea aspera, collected in the wild, presented to me by the Cornish gardeners of the National Trust who came around the garden a few years ago. Large flowers, lacy and absolutely beautiful. Past the vast trunk of Olearia virgata linearis, I have my Chamaerops, the Mediterranean fan palm, which I've trimmed up to form 3 stems which look rather exotic. This came from Italy. I bought it in 1991, thinking that it was illegal to import plants. I tucked it in my suitcase, and at the other end, I was waiting at the airport carousel. Nothing happened. Everybody had taken their luggage out. No sign of my suitcase, and then it appeared in the carousel. It had split. They put it in a plastic box, and this palm tree was waving its fronds out of the box for all to see. Ha-ha. Anyway, I needn't have worried, because we were in the EU, and you could freely import these things. Well, time to go back. Bertie's found a very interesting bit of palm tree. We'll go through the geraniums and roses. Lovely French rose called the Comtesse de Ségur, la Comtesse de Ségur.